welcome to Paranormal Kativity. Today I want to talk about one of the most interesting cases of possible proof of reincarnation that I have come across. It's awesome. I love stories about reincarnation and kids remembering things that there's no way they could remember, but this one in particular is really good. A couple named John and Florence Pollock had two girls in the mid-50s. In 57, Jacqueline was 6, Joanna was 11. They ended up on their way to church being in a car accident and they passed away. So the next year, John and Florence ended up expecting again. And they were very excited about this, but John had this gut instinct that they were going to have two girls. And at the time, in the mid to late 50s, there wasn't a whole lot of technology to be able to know what was going on during a pregnancy. So they couldn't tell how many kids were in there or the gender, but there was no reason to believe that there would be two female births from this pregnancy. However, when they ended up having the baby, there were two, and they were girls. They named the girls Gillian and Jennifer. And Jennifer happened to have birthmarks and marks on her body that Jacqueline had. She had a birthmark on her waistline, and then she also had a birthmark where Jacqueline had had a scar on her forehead. Gillian didn't have any of these birthmarks, and aside from the birthmarks, like genetically, they were identical twins. So it was very interesting that they would have different birthmarks and still be considered identical, but they were. So their first couple months, they were still in Hexham, England, which is where the incident with their other sisters had occurred. And then after they were about 2 months old, they moved out of that town. They moved to a place called Whitley Bay, and about the time they were 2 years old, the girls started talking about toys that they wanted to play with. And these were toys they'd never seen before, didn't know existed, and just so happened to belong to their deceased sisters, who they had no knowledge of at all. So a couple more years pass, and around the time they're 4, their parents decide that they want to move back to Hexham. So they take the girls, they move back. The girls, being as young as they were, like 2 months old, you're not gonna know anything about that town, but they came into the town knowing things they shouldn't know. They recognized the school and talked about how that was the school they went to. They noticed the playground and talked about how they used to play there. The parents also, whenever they moved back to the town, were able to acquire their deceased girls' toys, and the other girls started to play with them. And the girls started calling them the exact same nicknames that the other sisters had given them years before. Then they started to have kind of a morbid, macabre, weird game that they would play where they would lay on the ground and talk about when the car hit them, what they looked like when it happened. On top of that, they also had extreme hysterical reactions to vehicles that would pass them because they were afraid they'd get hit by the cars. So these girls had a lot of these weird instances happen for years up until they turned 5. All of a sudden at 5 years old, the memories just left. They didn't talk about it anymore. They didn't do anything with it anymore, but they continued to develop personalities very similar to their sisters as well. So even without knowledge of any of the memories of those past lives any longer, they still were basically becoming the same people. Their story got the attention of a psychologist named Ian Stevenson, and he felt like this was one of the best cases of proof for reincarnation he'd ever seen. He ended up following the girls and documenting their lives up until the 80s. And he stood by the fact that he felt like this was a legitimate case that could prove reincarnation was a real thing. I love stories like these, and there are a ton of them. So if you enjoyed hearing about reincarnation, please do let me know down below or with a thumbs up so that way I can keep it in mind, because there's a lot of really amazing stories that I would love to go over as well. Also, my friend Stephanie, I'm gonna link below a video from her. Her kid talks about his past life, and it's one of the most incredible things ever to hear about. I've linked it before in mystery links, but just so we know where it is, if you want to go there, you can go there and watch, because it's really interesting stuff. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really do appreciate your time. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do, and turn on notifications so that you get notified every time I make a video. I'm Kat, and this is Paranormal Kativity. Have a strange day. Bye!